Planescape, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the game 5th edition should have been in the first place. What's up, nerds? It's your boy, the OGGM, on a very cold 17th day of October, about 9:43 in the morning here, the year of our Lord 2023. All hail Steve. Pumpkin spice coffee. Why is it during October it's called pumpkin spice, but the rest of the year it's just cinnamon and nutmeg? Right? I mean, it's no big secret, guys. It's cinnamon and nutmeg. All right, so the reviews for Planescape are starting to tumble in. Obviously, we have to brush aside they gave it to us for free, so we have to say nice things about it from the various commentators to get to the meaty chunks of Planescape. And it's interesting. It's sad. It's interesting, but maybe there's a teeny hint that 2024 D&D through 2027 D&D might not be awful. Now I'm going to paraphrase this by, of course, 5th edition isn't bad. All right. I've said some horrible things in the past about 5e, yes, but that's more like the direction of 5e and what people have tried to do with 5e than 5e on its own. Again, 5e on its own is fine. It's not Dungeons and Dragons, and it never has been, and that's okay. The problem is that people don't realize it's not Dungeons and Dragons, and Wizards of the Coast tends to forget that as well. Well, now it seems they're backpedaling while going forward with the idea that 5th edition was always supposed to be Planescape, and that 2024 through 2027 D&D will be more Planescape-centric, and that this has always been what they've been building up to. Which begs the question, well, why wasn't this what you released in the first place then? So, the reviews are in, and we've got a couple here. Then they're not awful. It's not saying anything bad about this. There's no controversies yet associated with it. No, claims of racism or sexism or racial profiling or even any of the AI art complaints. So far, there are none. I mean, nobody's found anything really bad or awful about it. And the good reviews are basically, it's harmless. It is a harmless piece of fluff that does its job. Okay? If you're expecting it to be like the previous Planescape, then it's not. It's nothing like the previous Planescape. It is definitely much more of a homogenized Planescape, which is sad. It's not as horrific or awful as Planescape was in the beginning, because there are some safety tools implied, especially in the example adventure, where you get to play 3 characters instead of 1 character. And the example adventure is a direct ripoff of Planescape Torment, in that you start the game in a morgue, being woken up by Mort the Floating Skull with no memory of how you got there or who you are. And then through the adventure, you work your way from 1st through 17th level for some bizarre reason. And during that process, you get to sort of figure out who you are by playing 3 different characters. And at the end of which, you get to choose which of those 3 characters is the you really are. Now, in practice, that idea is kind of cool. I don't know if I'd make them wait to 17th level to do that. But yeah. Which is an interesting way to introduce the safety tool of, well, you can't really die in Planescape because you're going to have multiple characters. But is that a rule for the entire game or just the example adventure? What if I just want to run a Planescape Day 1 adventure? Does everybody get a 3 character sheets? No. This is just the included adventure. You could ignore that and just start running as normal. There are new backgrounds, and all the backgrounds, of course, come with a brand new built-in automatic feat, which basically means if you don't take the Planescape backgrounds, you don't get the free feat, and the free feat also gives you a free spell, and the new backgrounds are kind of broken, but only in specific situations. They're very specific situation. So that's kind of cool. Like, you only get the, like, if you choose the background, which, you know, means you were basically born Planescape and you have been exposed to the energies of Planescape, you are attuned to one of the certain aspects of Planescape, one of the certain doorways. You grew up around the doorway, and the energies of that doorway have mutated you, so you are slightly different no matter what you are. And that gives you certain advantages when you're in an area that is attached to the energy of that doorway. So, for example, I was born near the doorway to the elemental plane of, what's the first thing I see? Chairs, because that's the first thing I see in my room. So, if I'm ever near anything that gives off elemental plane of chairs energy, I get these bonuses. But if I'm in, you know, someplace else, normal place or place that has no connection to the elemental plane of chairs or whatever, I don't get the bonuses. I'm just normal Joe, which is kind of weird, cool, different, pointless, but also, yeah, it sort of builds a uniqueness and builds into the whole nothing here is what you're used to. And then basically the rest of the reviews basically kind of just go on and on and on and on about the whole idea that D&D 5th edition was always supposed to be Planescape. The story they've been telling since 2014 through 2023 has been sort of, let's tell the story of how Planescape is this engine that has been working behind everything, that everything connects to Planescape, that Planescape connects to everything, and that, you know, this is always the story we've been trying to tell. We just didn't really do a good enough job of it. But now, 2024 D&D, going through 2027 D&D, we are going to do the job we should have done with 2014 D&D, and that is D&D 2024 is going to be much more Planescape-centric. Now, Crawford didn't come out and say that, you know, 2024 through 2027 D&D and the story arc of 2024 through 2027 D is going to be Planescape-centric. But now the reviews are definitely kind of making it feel like, no, that seems to be the direction they're going to go. The Planescape is the starting point for all the 2024 through 2027 D&D whatever. So that means, I guess, less world-specific settings and more just, here's a book that explains the elemental plane of chairs that we're going to charge you $100 for. So they're not going to go back to the well and just release a 2024, 2025, 2026, 2027 version of stuff that we've already seen. We're either going to see less stuff than we've seen before, or the stuff we're going to see coming forward is going to be more interdimensionally multiversal as opposed to whatever. It really doesn't give us any idea of what to expect from Planescape 2024, just that it is now maybe going to be the starting. So I guess, so maybe the very first adventures and campaign settings we see post 2024 year of Vecna, if that's still the plan, will be more outer planey, multiversey, planescapey stuff. Which then, of course, you know, we realize the factions and the books and the planes and the cities, and there's more pages explaining the factions and the books and the cities, but no actual rules to explain how this works or why it's not connected to any pre-existing worlds. So you would think that if 2014 through 2024 D&D has always been about Planescape, then when you look at the doors, there would be doors connecting to Ravenloft, Witchlight, Theros, Ravinica, any of the 4 elemental planes, the plane of shadow where the Raven Queen reigns, and most importantly, Radiant Citadel. You would think that there would be a connection to the Radiant Citadel, and there would be some interconnected story continuing the story of the Radiant Citadel, which was sort of baby Planescape, right? Because the whole thing about Radiant Citadel was, here's this city in the middle of a series of interdimensional doorways. It was DS9. Well, now here's Planescape, which is this center of the multiverse, and in the center of the multiverse is this city with doors to other parts of the multiverse, i.e. DS9. So wouldn't it make sense that Radiant Citadel and Planescape have a shared history and connect to each other? But nope, none of the things I just mentioned are apparently connected to Planescape in any way, shape, or form. So that sort of goes against the whole idea that 2014 through 2024 D&D has all been about Planescape, and Planescape has been the secret engine behind all of that. And going forward, we're going to link everything we tell them in the future some way to Planescape. Except, of course, it doesn't have any actual connections to any of the other parts of the multiverse we've shown you so far. There's no doorway to the Forgotten Realms. There's no doorway to Ravenloft. There's no doorway to the Elemental Planes. There's no doorway to Ravinica. There's no doorway to the Radiant Citadel. So basically, everything pre-2024 Planescape is a wash. Instead, we're going to see all new planes, which we're going to tell all new stories about. So, but because it is backwards compatible, you could use those old places if you want. You could still use 2014 Ravenloft. There's just no door to Ravenloft in Sigil, but that doesn't mean you couldn't add one. And then we get to the chunky bits. There are 2 new backgrounds, just 2, to add to the how many backgrounds there are now. 7 new feats, one of which is the free feat that you get if you take the new backgrounds. If you don't take any of the new backgrounds and you want the new feat, well, then you got to do something that lets you get the new feat. Which is, I guess, whatever. 3 new magic items, one of which really isn't a magic item. 2 new spells, and of course the 12 factions that make up Planescape, who are all fighting over the idea of control over Planescape and manipulating the politics of Planescape under the ever-watchful eye of Our Lady of Pain. Our Lady of Pain is still in there, but she has been removed from the idea of a, god or goddess or whatever, to just sort of, she is this all-powerful entity that watches over Sigil, but you never really have any direct interaction with her, and she never really has any direct interaction with you. So, interesting take on Our Lady of Pain, and where to go with her. And then we have some descriptions of each of the new backgrounds and the 3 new magic items, one of which is not a magic item. So they've reintroduced the mirrors, which were basically the signposts of Sigil and the Planes. There's these statues you can talk to, and they answer questions, give you directions, stuff like that. It's like where am I now computerized map that you would maybe find in an amusement park or whatever. But in D&D terms, it says these things. So you walk up to them and you go, hey, I'm lost. Where am I? And it tells you. Or how do I get to the nearest bank of chairs from where I am now? And it tells you, and it can cast Legend Lore once per day. So you could ask it, hey, I found this thing laying on the ground. I want to give it back to its owner. Can you tell me? And it would go, oh, yes, and give you a map. So yeah, okay, fine. But if I can't take it with me, it's not really a magic item. It's just an intrinsic part of Planescape. And the second of the 3 new magic items is the magical compass that shows you the direction to the last portal that you used or that's in the area. Is that really a magic item? Just sounds like a cheap version of the Wayfinder from Pathfinder. And the last one that is called the Sensory Stone, that records one sensation that you can replay later. So if you want to tell somebody, it smelled like this, but I can't describe it. Well, I've got this stone that I can now use to show you what it smelled like. This was the sensation, the experience I had. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a magic item. And that's about it. And then we go into the setting, which we already know. It's not bad. It's not great. It's just kind of there. The reviews basically go, they can't encompass all of Planescape in this book, in this box. So you're going to have to buy more shit if and when Wizards makes more stuff. Because if there's questions you have, they're probably not all covered in this book. And then we talk about the monster manual and the adventure, which I already talked about. And that's about it. It gives us 64 pages of 50 monsters. The rest of it is artwork. Some of it are monsters we've already seen. Some of it are monsters that are sort of new. Some of it are just revisiting monsters that we've already seen. A lot of it seems to be monsters we've already seen. Like, hey, here's the Githyanki. We've already seen the Githyanki. You've already given us the stat block of the Githyanki. But if I give you the stat block for the Githyanki again, that's one less monster I actually have to come up with. And then just the summing it up. The designers have definitely learned from the mistakes of the past 10 years and of the original Planescape. Not that there was anything wrong with the original Planescape. It's bigger, but not big enough. It gives you an introduction to Planescape, but it's not a deep dive, so definitely there needs to be more. There's a solid framework of the idea of running this, business, interdimensional, Deep Space Nine. Art, and more option. Player options, but not enough. Adventure hooks. Counter hooks. No big multiverse spanning about the Outlands. Like, again, can I use this to travel to Ravenloft, to the Feywild, to Greyhawk, to Eberron, to Krynn? Where are those gates? If this is the everything setting that interconnects the D&D multiverse, then where are the connections to the pre-existing D&D multiverse? Or are you saying, as of 2024, the pre-existing D&D multiverse isn't part of the canon? Which then would go into the basically claims that even though they're, the soft reset of 2024 rules is not a new game and not a new setting, and everything is still canon, but if you're running a Planescape campaign, which seems to insinuate that Planescape will be the core campaign going forward, and not the Forgotten Realms or whatever, so I guess the Vecna story arc will feature Planescape, assuming they're still doing the Vecna story arc in 2024. Notice there's no mention of Vecna anywhere in this. And the disappointment of course, the final Phandelver reveal of what the Obelisks wore have nothing to do with Vecna and nothing to do with Planescape. There's no mention of the Obelisks in here either. Which leaves us kind of what I thought it would be when they first announced it. Harmless. And a idea that could be good, but feels unfinished. And just sort of lays the blame on pre-existing D&D for not doing the job, but also lays the blame on 2014 through 2024 D&D for not doing the job that Crawford claims it's been doing all along. So, yeah. Crawford says that Planescape has always been the story he wanted to tell, except it took him 10 years to get to there. And after 10 years of D&D 5e, and the nothing is canon till I say it's canon philosophy of Crawford, now we're doing a soft reset. Everything going forward will be somehow interconnected to Planescape, except it has no connection to pre-existing D&D. Definitely no connection to anything that happened before 2014, because we know in Crawford's timeline, nothing that happened before 2014 counts in 5th edition, right? It's not canon. But now it seems that what they're insinuating is none of the stuff we spent the last 10 years working on is canon, because there's no connection to those places. Instead, we're introducing brand new places, or a place you've seen before that's been completely regurgitated, chewed up, and then turned into something new, and we've given it a new name because reasons. Now, often when we say these things, people tell me, well, the reason is that Crawford and Wizards of the Coast don't want to acknowledge the history of Dungeons and Dragons. If I take Dragonlance and regurgitate it into something else and put a gateway to Dragonlance, but never say it's Dragonlance, and it doesn't really have any connection to Dragonlance as we recognize it, then I don't have to give credit to the people that created Dragonlance, because here's a brand new interdimensional that I made myself that has nothing to do with Dragonlance other than it's Dragonlance, but it's my version of Dragonlance, so therefore I, Jeremy Crawford, created this. This is kind of like, Crawford saying the other day about the fallbacks. This is the first time ever they've created a group of iconic adventurers. Or Crawford saying about the Bastions. This is the first time ever that we've done anything like this. 2023 D&D only seems to be aware of what exists with what's right in front of it. Or Jeremy Crawford only acknowledges what's right in front of him. And in his mindset, if it's not right in front of him, it was never, ever, ever done before. So although Crawford claims that he's been working about to 2024 Planescape the whole time, and it's always been Planescape, even though it's never been Planescape. And of course, the question being, well, if it's always been Planescape, why did you wait so long? And why is there no connection to any of the stories you've told before, especially if you claim 2024 D&D will be backwards compatible? It's a soft reset, and it's not a brand new system with a brand new universe that has no connection to the pre-existing universe. You cannot be backwards compatible if there's no connections to the past. You can't say, oh, this is connected to Witchlight, but there's no gateways to Witchlight. Instead, we have a brand new place that is just like Witchlight, but it has a brand new name, and it looks completely different. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. At the end of the day, it's harmless, and in my humble opinion, Planescape is what 5th edition should have been from day one. The engine and the philosophy of 5e is much more applicable to the idea of Planescape. Sure, some of the cosmic body horror of Planescape is missing, but okay, fine, whatever. We know that's what Wizards thinks the core audience wants. 5e should have always been Planescape. 2024 through 2027 D&D should be Planescape. We should understand that it is not Dungeons & Dragons, it is Planescape. And that is the game they are running. That is the story they are telling. That is the game we should be playing, because that's the game, quote unquote, we've always been playing. We've been playing Planescape since 2014. We haven't been playing D&D. But you tell me what you think. I've already wasted plenty of your time with this. But unfortunately, it's the only real news story we have today. So I'll talk to y'all later. Until then, Planescape.